AI is rewriting the business playbook, with productivity boosts and faster decision-making coming to every industry. If you're not thinking about AI, you can bet your competition is. This is not where you want to drop the ball. But AI requires a lot of compute power. And with most cloud platforms, the cost for your AI workloads can spiral. That is, unless you're running on OCI, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. This was the cloud built for AI, a blazing fast enterprise-grade platform for your infrastructure, database, apps, and all your AI workloads. OCI costs 50% less than other major hyperscalers for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Thousands of businesses have already scored with OCI, including Vodafone, Thomson Reuters, and Suno AI. Now the ball's in your court.
Right now, Oracle can cut your current cloud bill in half if you move to OCI. Minimum financial commitment and other terms apply. Offer ends March 31st. See if your company qualifies for this special offer at oracle.com/strategic. That's oracle.com/strategic.
Sail to breathtaking destinations in Alaska or Europe with the Disney Cruise Line. Discover where onboard magic meets onshore adventures, where beloved characters
Hiya, pal!
meet alluring landscapes, where Broadway quality shows meet historic cities, where imaginative dining meets amazing wildlife, and where exciting experiences await the whole family. Book an adventure-filled summer Disney cruise to Alaska or Europe.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Creativity doesn't wait. It moves, shifts, evolves, just like you. And with the Yoga PC from Lenovo, your tools finally keep up. Stunning, smart, and sustainably sourced, Yoga PCs from Lenovo are designed to amplify your creativity with AI-powered performance. Whether you're sketching, editing, animating, or composing, yoga moves with you, adapting to your creativity, to your rhythm. With beautiful displays and the flexibility to shift from laptop to tablet, yoga unlocks new ways to inspire and create. Because at Lenovo, we believe your tools should fuel your flow, not hold you back. Yoga PCs from Lenovo support you at every step of your creative journey. So check out lenovo.com/yoga and supercharge your creativity with yoga. Lenovo. Empowering creators everywhere.
Episode 491, How Marketers Use the Same Tactics as Cults, with Dr. Mara Einstein.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast, where you'll learn to save money, embrace simplicity, and live a richer life. Here are your hosts, Jen and Jill.
Welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Jill.
And today we are bringing you an episode that we are so excited for. This is the most excited I have been about recording an episode in a very long time. And I'm so excited for you to hear it.
Whenever we have an opportunity to bring on a guest, particularly in kind of a unique niche, very interesting area, bringing a fresh perspective, but with knowledge and resources and tools that will actually really help us in making good spending decisions, then yeah, of course we're going to be super excited. And that's exactly what Dr. Mara is doing today. We've already recorded the interview, so we're now talking about the intro with the level of excitement that we know we should have, because it's such a good conversation.
Yeah, and you might recognize her. You might already know her if you watch the documentary Buy Now, The Shopping Conspiracy on Netflix. It's a documentary about overconsumption, marketing, and its impact on society and the planet. So if you haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. Go check it out. But it does leave something to be desired at the end in terms of what, honestly, it could have talked a lot more about the deceptive marketing, but also action steps on how to act upon what you're feeling now after watching it, which is what we always try to do on this show. But first, before we talk to Dr. Mara, this episode is brought to you by Being Upfront. In today's episode, we are going to talk about deceptive marketing and advertising. And we're not going to shy away from the fact that this podcast that you are listening to right now is supported by advertising. We want to do our best to ensure the advertising is as relevant as possible. It is our goal in 2025 to curate that even more. But we want to continue to bring you our content for free. And because exposure does not pay the bills, we will continue to be supported by brand partnerships and advertising. But we want to ensure you that A, we will do our best to make sure what we are talking about is most relevant to your needs, and that we equip you with the tools necessary to discern if advertising and marketing is something, if the products and services are something you need or not, or want or not, what's best for you. And that's what we hope to do in this episode, is just give you another tool to discern. We don't think marketing is bad. We spent 6 months marketing our book, Buy What You Love Without Going Broke, because we so strongly believe in it helping, that it has the capacity to help people. So we don't think marketing is bad. We think deceptive marketing is bad. And we want you to have the tools to discern that. And we also talk about it in our friend letter, frugalfriendspodcast.com. You can sign up for our 3 times weekly newsletter where we give
free.
even more tips. That is also free. And so that is another, we bring our YouTube videos, our podcasts, our newsletter with all of these things to help you. We want to, and we will always continue to bring them to you for free. That is something we stand by. We don't want to have to make you buy an online course or pay a subscription every month to get that stuff. And even if you can and would afford it, there are people who can't, and we want to continue to have that free for them. And this is how we do it. So thank you for paying for the show with your time and grace.
And listening. Yeah. And hopefully you feel more and more equipped to be able to navigate these very murky waters, to be able to make those good decisions for yourself. Because even if we believe in a brand or a product that we personally talk about, it still doesn't mean that it's for everybody. And so you need to feel really confident about making the spending decisions that work for you. And this conversation with Dr. Mara is just one more thing that we can provide to be able to help you feel really confident in that.
Yeah. Beyond the Netflix documentary Buy Now, Dr. Mara Einstein is an internationally recognized expert on deceptive marketing tactics. She's the author of 8 books, including her latest, Hoodwinked, How Marketers Use the Same Tactics as Cults. And she's after working for a decade in corporate marketing, now she has a PhD and she's in academia talking about deceptive marketing. So you're going to love this interview. I'm so excited for you to hear it.
Let's do it.
Dr. Mara, welcome to the Frugal Friends podcast. We are excited to have you here.
I'm so excited for this conversation. I can't wait to dig in.
This is exactly up our alley. We talk about this topic a bit in the book, but you've got so much more expertise to bring to the table. So can we just dive right in with all of the juicy goodness that we want to explore today? What do you see as the parallels between the tactics of cults and some common marketing practices?
When people who work in marketing, they talk about something called the marketing funnel. And the way that the marketing funnel works is that at the top of the funnel, it's very wide open, right? And that's where awareness happens. So it's like everyone in the world is out there. Marketers want to bring all of their information to people, find out who will like their product. So they scream and yell about it as much as possible. So that's a very basic part of marketing. That's awareness. The second part is called consideration. So now you've heard about all of these products out in the world, and then you decide this one's for me, this one's not for me, and so on. The third step of the process is what's actually known as conversion. It's when you buy. When you buy something, you are known as a convert. And then the last part is loyalty. And loyalty, we now call marketing evangelists. So within a social media space, what has made people not just loyalists, but marketing evangelists is the ability to be able to then talk about the product to, thousands, if not millions of people, depending upon what the size of your following is. So cults do the exact same thing that marketers do. They want to grab people in the awareness phase, right? We're going to tell you who we are. But little catch here, they use a bit of deception, right? They don't tell you exactly who they are when they're bringing you into awareness. So a great example for this is IXCON, which is used to be called the Hare Krishnas, right? They used to be on the corners in New York City with the orange robes and the ponytails and the whole thing. Now they don't look like that anymore. But what they do is they invite college students and others to have a free dinner. And who doesn't like a free dinner or a free meditation class or a free yoga class? And then they start to bring them into the group, right? This increases their awareness. It increases them knowing about, quote unquote, knowing what this organization is about. And then they bring them into community. This is a key part of this. And this is what happens in terms of the consideration step. Is what brands and cults do is create community around people. So this is something this is a good bell thing for your listeners to think about. Is somebody trying to make me a part of a group before I know anything about them? Are they trying to tell me how wonderful I am before they know anything about me? And cults and brands both use this, because if what companies started to do in the early 2000s, right, as social media spaces started to grow, is they created brand communities. And these were around things like Nutella, of all things. And actually, Nutella happened because of the brand, not because of the company. People who are fans of Nutella love Nutella. And they created World Nutella Day. It wasn't the brand. It was the fans that did it. And so if fans do it, that's cool. It's when brands start to do it and start to get you to integrate with them and form a community. Because what forming a community does, whether it's a brand or it's a cult, makes it harder to leave. Because it's not about you leaving just this brand or this group. It's about leaving all the people you made connections with. And that becomes much harder to leave.
Yeah, I've seen this a lot in the body positivity movement, where it has shifted from being okay with yourself and loving yourself in whatever shape or however you are, to being this marketing tactic where people say oh, you're beautiful. You just need this, one product that I have, this one skincare product. And then we create communities around skincare. And I see it even more so, this is just in general marketing, but even more so in MLMs, which are somehow making a resurgence. I am flabbergasted. But yeah, you don't think about it until you hear Dr. Mara, you saying this stuff.
Well, I talk a lot about MLMs in Hoodwinked. Just long sections. I spent 2 years researching MLMs and talking with people who are part of MLMs, who left MLMs, talking with regulators, talking with researchers. So I spent a lot of time digging into that. And one of the things that I did was I asked a cult expert and people who had been in MLMs, if you were going to do a Venn diagram between an MLM and a cult, what would it look like? And they all said it would look like a circle, because they absolutely are the same thing. Because what happens is, right, okay, so we're talking about the marketing funnel. So that's from the perspective of the marketer. Well, you're looking at it specifically in terms of cults. Let's parallel this. So the first step in the product process is recruiting vulnerable people. And so, if you're talking about a cult, one of the places they love to recruit people is college campuses in September, because you have a group of very young people who haven't established social ties, who are trying to find people to connect with. And so that's talk about a rich space where you can find your target audience, that's really key for them. If you want to think about it in terms of consumers, or I prefer to call us people. Don't talk about yourself as a consumer. That's probably the first thing to think about. And you'll notice when in all of my books, I try to avoid the word consumer as much as possible, because if we think of ourselves as consumers, that's putting the idea into our head that that's who we are, and it's not who we are.
Yeah. The language around what you're describing is so important and eye-opening to recognize that a lot of the language used within cults and marketing, even on the back end, is similar. Do you think in all of your research and studies and understanding of this that there is an awareness of this from a marketing perspective? Like, how insidious do you think marketers
From the marketer's
are?
perspective, or from
Exactly.
people's
From the marketer's perspective, like, are they aware? Like, we are kind of functioning like we're taking the playbook from the cults.
Yes, because when I interviewed marketers, so just to give people a little bit of background, so I have an MBA and a PhD. So I expected to work in this business forever, and I worked as a marketer for a decade, and then I switched and became a critic. And so when I go to interview people who are in the industry, I say to them, I'm not doing this to attack you. I'm doing this to help I know I'm in this privileged position to be able to understand what you do on a day-to-day basis, but also to take a bird's eye view to see what is going on more globally in terms of a marketing perspective. And because of that, they're willing to talk to me. So like I talk to corporate marketers from MLMs. We can talk about that later. They didn't talk on the record, but they did talk to me. But so when I interviewed them for Hoodwinked, I didn't tell them the subtitle of the book, which is How Marketers Use the Same Tactics as Cults, because I didn't want to frame the conversation. I wanted them to just tell me what their ideas were. And so then at the end of the interview, I would tell them what the name of the book was. And they all went, yeah, that's exactly what we do. And for some, it was, yes, it's exactly what we do. And for some, it was like, yeah, it is what we do.
Yikes. So some got it and some were like, yikes.
I guess so, now that you say it that way. Wow.
Wow.
Because what's happening, right? So going back to this idea of getting people when they're vulnerable. I mean, advertising has done that since the beginning of time. That's not new. And so, to your point, Jen, what you were talking about in terms of health and wellness, right? You're not pretty enough. You're not fit enough. You're not thin enough, right? Use our products. So this, problem solution advertising has always been the most successful kind of advertising out there. And it plays on our psychology. And so what used to exist is this sort of propagandistic idea of advertising, which is you just throw the message out there, you say it over and over and over and over again, and people will start to believe it. And this is what existed in the 1950s when mass media and mass marketing first began to come onto the scene. So what you had at that time was something called the unique selling proposition, or the USP. And that's what companies would say over and over and over again. So melts in your mouth, not in your hand, right? So that people would begin to believe it. But what happened in the 1960s and going into the 70s and beyond, what you had is the introduction of psychologists and psychiatrists into advertising and marketing, so they could begin to think of the psychology of how to sell and understanding from a communication standpoint, right? So I teach media studies and marketing and advertising. From a communication standpoint, we also begin to understand that not everybody accepts the information as the same way as everybody else. They used to talk about it as the hypodermic needle of communication. You just take a big needle and you send all the information out into the marketplace and everybody's going to believe it. Well, nobody believes that and understands that that's the way that communication works anymore. What they do is try to figure out what your vulnerabilities are and then find the ways to tap into your vulnerabilities and talk to those.
Yes. Okay, so can you give some examples of industries or brands, how they will tap into those insecurities?
Wow. How do they not?
Maybe some of the ways people wouldn't think about, but you're
let me give you
yeah.
an extreme example. A good extreme example is for-profit colleges. So the way that so nonprofit colleges are probably what people normally think of when they think of colleges. Harvard is a nonprofit college, but we'll put that to the side for just a second. But when you're thinking of for-profit colleges like University of Phoenix, like Trump University, these are specifically working to get people in the door because they want to take advantage of the federal loan system. They don't really care whether or not you get an education. They would just want your money or the government's money, and then you have to pay the government back. So what they do is they look for what are known as your pain point. What is that thing that is going to hurt you so much that it's going to get you off your duff and actually pay for this? So it could be something like, you want to do this for your kid, right? You don't want your kid to go through what you went through, right? You want to be able to have that job. You want to be able to make more money, right? And so they push on all of those things until they get you to purchase. The way that cults do this, for a previous book, I spent a couple of years researching the Kabbalah Center. What something like the Kabbalah Center does is you take an introductory class with them. And part of the introductory class is you get a free session with the teacher. Well, it's not really a free session. So you think you're going in there all night and, oh, great, I get a session with the teacher. This is cool. No, it's the hardest sales pitch you have ever seen in your entire life. And it's you and the teacher. So you want to talk about a power position? That person's got power over you. They have information over you. And then they try to sell you on all of the things that they have. Most people, and the worst thing that they do, and a lot of cults do this, is if you really cared about your sense of spirituality, you would find a way to pay for this. Put it on your credit card, borrow it from your parents, do whatever it is you need to do, but you need to find a way to pay this money. And it's like, and if you're in enough pain, right? Remember, going back to vulnerability, if you're in enough pain, you will do it because you think what this person is selling is going to eliminate that pain for you.
Yeah. And you don't even have to be in pain when you walk in the door. They'll create it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think of timeshares. I mean, if you really care about your family and their vacations, you'll do this. It'll force you to take a vacation every year. And yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There are a few important things we believe everyone should be doing with their money, one of them being securing term life insurance for yourself. It's one of the best ways to prepare for the unexpected, and we're thrilled to introduce you to a company that gives you coverage and peace of mind in just minutes.
Fabric by Gerber Life is term life insurance you can get done right from your couch, all online and on your schedule. You could be covered in under 10 minutes with no health exam required. If you've got kids, and especially if you're young and healthy, the time to lock in low rates is now.
Even if you have life insurance through your employer, it may not offer enough protection for your family, and it may not follow you if you leave your job. We like Fabric for their flexible, high-quality policies that fit your family and your budget, like $1 million in coverage for less than $1 a day.
Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/frugal. That's meetfabric.com/frugal. MEET fabric.com/frugal. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Assurance Company, not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions.
Hi, friend. It's your inner child calling. And they want churros. A new toy. And a new adventure. Or maybe 5. With the bestest besties on Earth. Find your moment at Walt Disney World Resort.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover's accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
During tax season, your sensitive info does a lot of traveling to places you can't control. Stopping off at payroll, your accountant or tax preparer, and countless other data centers on its way to the IRS. Any of them can expose you to identity theft because they all have the info on your W-2, just the ticket for criminals to steal your identity. No wonder the IRS reported tax fraud due to identity theft went up 20% last year. You need LifeLock. They monitor millions of data points per second and alert you to threats you could miss. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock's US-based restoration specialists will fix it, backed by the $1 Million Protection Package. And restoration is guaranteed, or your money back. Don't let identity thieves take you for a ride. Get LifeLock protection for tax season and beyond. Join now and save up to 40% your first year. Call 1-800-LifeLock and use promo code iHeart or go to lifelock.com/iHeart for 40% off. Terms apply.
So I'm curious to hear from you. You've described a little bit of the vulnerability and kind of how that draws us into maybe making purchases that we otherwise wouldn't have, or beginning to belong to a cult. And I think so many of us, we can watch some of these documentaries and imagine, oh, but I would never. And yet, as you're describing, we are susceptible to these same strategies within marketing and our purchasing and consumption. Why do you think we're so unaware of this? How is it so clouded from our sight that we are just engaging in this and we don't even know?
Yeah. What's interesting to me is, and what's hard for me in the work that I do, is that everybody thinks they understand marketing, right? Everybody thinks they know how it all works. But if they begin to, for instance, follow me on TikTok, they're like, oh, I didn't know about that. Geofencing? What's geofencing, right? So all of these things that are going on that they don't understand. And as you begin to pull the threads, then people start opening up their eyes. There's also something known as the third person effect. And the third person effect is this idea that, oh, advertising and marketing affects everybody else, but it doesn't impact me. But it does. And so to be aware, and to get to the other part of your question, the issue with it right now is that we are engaging with the vast majority of our advertising on social media, not just on social media, but on our phone. And the technology is designed in such a way to keep us connected for as long as possible, and two, to make us as anxious as possible. And that anxiety creates vulnerability, right? It all becomes part of this circle. And so in terms of the technology, one of the things is that there's no stopping point, right? It's an endless scroll. So that if you watch a movie, you stop watching a movie, it's done, you walk away and it's over. But there is no set point. So that's why you find yourself, if you're on social media spaces, just endlessly scrolling, because the longer that you stay on those spaces, the more likely you will engage with advertising. And the hope is that you will ultimately buy something. Now, remember, going back to the funnel, the whole idea of the funnel is that you will go through this whole process. Now, in traditional media, it would take a lot of time to get from the awareness part of the funnel to the marketing evangelist part of it. You had to, maybe you saw a commercial, or you saw a billboard, or you saw a print ad, and this was happening over time. And then you said, okay, you know what? I want this product. And so you get in your car or you walk down to your town and then you go buy it and then you look at it and then you kind of go, you know what? Maybe I don't want to spend $150 on a pair of shoes. Maybe I really don't. The problem with the online space is that the funnel has been collapsed. So there's no time between the awareness phase and the purchase phase. There's almost no time from that to then tell people to go tell everybody else.
One of the things we've talked about on the podcast and even in my own like mental health background is that vulnerability without protection leads to exploitation. And I think this is what I'm hearing you describe here. And it's making me wonder, if people exit cults, those who are kind of lucky enough to find themselves on the other side of it and begin a healing process, that's exactly what needs to happen is a healing process. And there is emotional, relational, psychological impact. Would you say the same then for marketing? Like, what is the exploitation that's happening? What is some of the emotional, psychological impact of these marketing tactics that mimic cults?
One of the things I talk about is that economists say that we're living in an attention economy, meaning that, marketers want our attention for as long a period of time as possible so that we'll engage with the advertising. What I'm suggesting is that we live in an anxiety economy because it's not just enough to get our eyeballs. And they want to ramp up our emotions. And so you can see this in social media spaces where the incentives for influencers is to ramp up our emotion, is to be enraged, is to do this sort of rage farming so that we get upset and then we share their content. And so that creates this cycle of anxiety, doom scrolling, anxiety purchase, right? Because anxiety needs release. It needs to be released. And again, the technology is created and it's all about the dopamine hit. And you talk about this, right? It's all about the dopamine hit. So how do you get away from the need from the dopamine hit? One, you got to start putting your phone down. Find reasons not to walk around with your phone. And certainly with what's going on in our country right now, even more reasons not to walk around with your phone. Turn off your location. Don't let people know where you are. You don't, unless you need it really for safety purposes, there's no reason for you to walk around with your phone 24/7. I know it's hard for people to, give up social media. Take a 1-day break. Take a 2-day break. Say for the weekend, you know what? I'm not going to go on social media for the weekend. And for no other reason, it will shift you and it will enable you to see, oh, I don't need this stuff. I mean, I'm sort of going through this right now because of what happened with the TikTok ban. So that's where I have my biggest following. And I also had a bit of a following on Instagram and Threads. But after what Zuckerberg did, I said, you know what? I can't be on those spaces anymore. So I've deactivated all my Meta accounts. And it's been an adjustment, but I'm also finding out that I don't need to be on as much as I was. I'm also thinking about, I'm old enough to remember where we engaged with news twice a day. You got up in the morning, you had your newspaper was delivered to your house, you read the newspaper, you went about your day, you lived your life, and you came home at night and you either watched the 6:30 news or the 11 o'clock news. And that was it. You don't need to know what's going on in the world 24 hours a day. Nobody does. And it's just not good for you. And it's not for you. What I always say to people is if you are thinking of this thing as anything other than a shopping mall, you're thinking about it the wrong way. The guy who created OkCupid said, this is a 24/7 marketing research piece of equipment, and everybody should understand that. And not everybody does understand this. And that was 8 years ago. I think more people have a better idea that their data is being collected and so on. But I don't think people have a full extent of how it is being used against them.
Yep. I can't say anything more than that. That is, yeah, exactly. So aside from not walking around with your phone or just like putting the phone down more, what other advice would you give people to protect themselves from these tactics, to protect their vulnerability?
Um, there's no way for the FTC to be able to find out if somebody actually is sponsored or not sponsored. So just sort of just go from the assumption that if somebody's looks like they're trying to sell you something, they're probably getting paid for it. Um, there's also because we know that we approach advertising with a very different mindset than we do so-called editorial content. If somebody's not being paid to sell something, and it's an influencer that we know, then we come at it with a more relaxed attitude. But the second we see hashtag sponsored, then we go, oh, okay, somebody's trying to sell me something, and you pay much more attention to it. Just go in assuming that somebody has an agenda and somebody's trying to sell you something. If they're holding anything in their hand, just assume they're getting paid to do it. Because part of the problem is with the smaller influencers, the nano influencers who have like 5 to 10,000 followers. A lot of them don't get paid. A lot of them are paid what they call in kind, meaning they are given the product to test and then promote. That is still considered by the FTC to be paid. But a lot of those nano influencers don't know that. So particularly if you're following somebody that you have come to appreciate, just assume that they're getting paid. And so enter into that conversation with that attitude. I would also say, not all influencers are bad people. There's some that legitimately want to provide information, and there's some that are just out there to, rack up their numbers as quickly as possible. And it's been really interesting to see, since TikTok has come back up, that some of the rage stuff is really off the charts. And I've had to put it down and put it away, and block people. The block button is your friend. And so if there's people that are, block it, get rid of it, don't engage with it. And also just, particularly now, get involved with your local community, know who your neighbors are, interact with your neighbors. Can you help with them? I belong to my local civic association, and, I've gotten to meet wonderful people who are in their 80s and who have lived in my neighborhood for years and know the history and the stories and all. And, one woman came from Germany. She's about to turn 90. The Nazis stole her doll and she stole it back from him. And she lived to tell the tale. Right.
Oh, wow.
Right. So you don't find that out by being on social media. You find that out by going to talk to your neighbors.
Yeah. Okay. There is one question I'd like to kind of get is, so you were in the Buy Now documentary. Is there anything that they did not use that you said that you wish they would have?
Oh gosh, yes. There was a whole second day of shooting that didn't make it into the documentary. And if you notice on the documentary, they chironed me as a former marketing executive. And I think that was because of how they were framing the film as everybody being ex-marketing executives, which is true. But they never talk about me being a professor and a marketing critic. So the entire second day was me giving a lecture about greenwashing and how, this whole idea of greenwashing and pinkwashing and so on, the idea of what I talk about as purpose washing. And that is when companies connect a brand to a cause. And the reason why companies want to do this, particularly for millennials and Gen Z, is because there have been some of the other larger institutions in our society don't have the same impact on us in terms of identity creation as they used to. Things like our religion, things like our jobs, things like our family. And so what happened in the 1990s and into the 2000s is that the market and brands came in to fill that void. So we're Starbucks or we're Dunkin', right? Right. So those become identifiers for who we are. And if we're going to make these brands part of our identity, what people said to companies was, well, you better tell me what your values are. If I'm really going to connect with you, you better tell me what your values are. And so a lot of companies began connecting their products to causes. And it could be anything from pink ribbons to greenwashing to, save the animals to, the red campaign that Bono was behind. And most of these, quite frankly, are BS. They don't live up to the values that they present. And there's very few that do. What's been interesting to me to see is how many people are talking about Ben and Jerry's right now. And that's one company that really does live up to the values that they talk about because they've been doing it. One, they've been doing it long. So this is what you want to look for to find out whether a company really cares about the cause they are connecting themselves to. Have they been doing it for a long time? Did they do it for a year and then move on? Then no, forget about it. Is it something that just increases their sales? Or are they actually doing something that's going to make a difference? So what I always talk about when I talk about purpose is the difference between purpose and impact. Purpose is a nice name. Impact is making a difference. And so again, Ben & Jerry's becomes a great example for something like that. MAC Cosmetics, right? They have the lipstick that comes out once a year, and all of the money, not the profits, right? Look and see if they're saying profits. They're saying profits or they're saying all of it. All of the money from that lipstick goes for AIDS and HIV, either education or assistance for people who suffer with that. So what you see with a lot of companies, though, is that they say something like breast cancer is a great example. The pink ribbon is not trademarked. So a company can just slap that pink ribbon onto a product and say, oh, I support breast cancer. And there could be absolutely nothing behind it. Nothing.
Yeah. I feel the same thing in June where everything goes rainbow. That the flag is not trademarked and everybody uses it.
Mm-hmm. It's a great example.
Man, you are giving us such tangible tips on how to protect ourselves as well as just awareness items where we can feel a little bit more equipped to make, we're still going to be buying, still going to be spending money, and there's still going to be products that might actually help to solve a real problem or create a more efficient lifestyle, but to be sure that we are making those decisions and not manipulated into making those decisions.
There's nothing wrong with buying. If you need something, buy something. The issue is overconsuming and overconsuming. Look, if you want to be radical, stop buying stuff you don't need. That is one of the most radical things you can do, because what it does is it makes it so you don't have to be working all the time to pay off all of that debt, which is just crazy. Because what we have done, what Silicon Valley has done beyond everything else, and I have all kinds of issues with them, is valorize the idea of a side hustle and the gig economy and the fact that everybody can be an entrepreneur. No, you know what? A lot of people would like to go in, work a 9 to 5, and be able to make a salary with that one paycheck and be able to put a roof over their heads, pay for their meals, and be able to send their kids to college. But we got sucker punched over the last 20 years by a bunch of adolescent white dudes in the West Coast. And I'll just stop there before I say something.
It stems back to the 2-income trap by Elizabeth Warren. And that would be a whole nother episode that we do not have time for. But basically, when we went to 2 incomes, it didn't help us. It didn't help women as much. It just made everything more expensive.
Yep.
And we consume more products. So now we need more money to consume more products and to afford bigger houses. That's what it really did.
Right.
It was under the guise, though, of equality.
Right. And the idea that anybody could be an influencer and that people could make money from this. There are 50 million influencers around the world, and only 2 million of them make any kind of a living at it. So the odds are not in your favor.
Do you know what is in our favor and is not a trap? And we do believe brings about just such joy.
Everybody benefits from
in
it.
Life.
The bill of the week.
That's right. It's time for the best minute of your entire week. Maybe a baby was born and his name is William. Maybe you paid off your mortgage. Maybe your car died and you're happy to not have to pay that bill anymore. Duck bills, Buffalo Bills, Bill Clinton. This is the bill of the week.
Dr. Mara, every week we yell at our listeners and our guests because we are so excited to hear their bills. And we are just as excited to hear your bill this week.
I had to think about this. I was really struggled with this, but when I finally got to it, I don't know if people are going to know who he is or not. Do you know who Bill Fagerbakke is?
No, sure don't. Tell me.
Yes, you do.
Oh.
Bill Fagerbakke is the voice of Patrick Star on SpongeBob SquarePants. And I was many years ago, I used to be a commercial talent agent. And Bill Fagerbakke was one of our clients. And he's huge. He's like 6'6", really tall, blonde. He also used to be on the show Coach. And he acts like he's not dumb at all. He's really smart. He's just the nicest guy. Truly, just the nicest guy. And so when I thought of Bill, I was like, oh God, Bill Fagerbakke. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's a new one. We've never had this, but I am a SpongeBob fan, and
oh my gosh,
this is very exciting.
So now you have to go look him up and see what he looks like.
Exactly. Oh, how
wonderful.
fun. Oh, thank you, Dr. Mara, for sharing that incredibly enlightening, very fun bill. If you all listening have a bill that you want to share, if it's about the voice of a beloved cartoon character, or just your name is Bill and you are beloved, or anything else Bill related, you know what we love. frugalfriendspodcast.com/Bill. Leave it for us. We can't wait to hear it.
Hi, friend. It's your inner child calling. And they want churros. A new toy. And a new adventure. Or maybe 5. With the bestest besties on Earth. Find your moment at Walt Disney World Resort.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Trust isn't just earned, it's demanded. Whether you're a startup founder navigating your first audit or a seasoned security professional scaling your GRC program, proving your commitment to security has never been more critical or more complex. That's where Vanta comes in. Businesses use Vanta to establish trust by automating compliance needs over 35 frameworks, like SOC 2 and ISO 27001. Centralize security workflows, complete questionnaires up to 5 times faster, and proactively manage vendor risk. Vanta can help you start or scale your security program by connecting you with auditors and experts to conduct your audit and set up your security program quickly. Plus, with automation and AI throughout the platform, Vanta gives you time back so you can focus on building your company. Join over 9,000 global companies like Atlassian, Quora, and Factory who use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. For a limited time, our audience gets $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/special. That's VANTA.com/special for $1,000 off.
Stop hitting snooze on new tech. Upgrade the whole team at Lenovo.com. Unlock AI experiences with the ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Powered by Intel Core Ultra processors. So you can work, create, and boost productivity all on one device. Win the tech search for business PCs at Lenovo.com.
Lenovo.
And now it's time for the lightning round. Pew, pew.
All right. So for this week's lightning round question, can you recall a recent ad or marketing tactic that felt cult-like to you?
The one I've been talking about, and I've actually been talking about for 3 years, but it's back, is He Gets Us, the He Gets Us campaign.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know?
Yes.
Do you know?
Yes,
Okay.
we know.
We do know.
So
I'm wondering who's putting this out. Who's Big Jesus out here putting out ads?
you know who's behind it? The Koch brothers. The Koch brothers, the Republican
Really?
Party. Yes.
Oh, well,
But-
okay. I get that.
Yeah. If people want to see, I've done a ton of TikToks on this, but the short version of it is that it is put out by a consortium of conservatives. There is an organization called Barna Research, and which is a conservative research organization, which is connected to another company called Gloo, Gloo. Go check out Gloo. It's a data marketing firm for conservative Christians and very tied to the Republican Party. They are funded by the Koch brothers. Also, the guy behind Hobby Lobby also gave a lot of money to this.
I did hear that one. I did hear that Hobby Lobby was partially behind it.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was a 3-year. So wait for it at the Super Bowl. You can be sure it's going to be part of the Super Bowl. It was a 3-year campaign. I think $1 billion. You will see it shown during all the Super Bowls and all of the major sporting events. It's also connected to the Alpha Course, if people know the Alpha Course.
Whoa. That's something that I haven't, and maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention to it. Like, where are they even trying to use a marketing term and a cult term, funnel people to? Like, it didn't seem to be connected to any particular church. Like, do you have an idea of like what they're hoping the takeaway or action item is after seeing this ad?
The Barna organization is a marketing company that works with churches. And so the hope is that these tools that are being created by Alpha are then used by these churches, and then these churches use them as a way to bring people into their spaces.
Okay.
I took one of the classes that Barna gave in association with this campaign. It was, I've been in a lot of evangelical rooms, but that one was particularly uncomfortable.
That's so sad, because at least I used to be impressed by the Barna's like research. It seemed to be more neutral than others. But
yeah. But they're now fully connected to Gloo, which may be the documentary. I would really recommend to people if they want to understand the connections between Republicans, churches, marketing, data, all of that sort of stuff. It's a documentary called People You May Know. People You May Know. And and the guy who did it was one of the people who testified in front of the UK Parliament about Cambridge Analytica. And so he gets into talking to people about how the data related to that's being gobbled up by these companies are then being funneled to churches. Now, why a 200-member church, has the Republican Party name list attached to it, I'll never know. But go watch the documentary. I highly recommend it.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it is so interesting. It brings up the fact that so many institutions that we may have once trusted and felt like we've known have been bought up, like not just in the religious space, but like in the, capitalism space, have been bought up by private equity or other places and are different than what we remember or have gained trust in our youth.
Right.
And so they think that's another way that we can fall victim to some deceptive marketing.
One of the things I really want to leave people with in terms of what's going on right now is the difference between media, like when I was growing up, is yes, there were 5 companies that basically controlled the media landscape, but they weren't controlling what I was seeing on a day-to-day basis. And I was seeing the same thing that my neighbor was seeing, so we could have a conversation about it. That's not what's going on now. We're all in our individual spaces and we aren't necessarily seeing the same thing. The other thing is the ability of someone like Mark Zuckerberg to control what is going on in that platform is at a level that none of us can understand. And even from the time when I would talk to people who worked in advertising spaces and algorithms, they don't understand it. The people who work in it don't understand it. And so, and if anybody tells you they do, they don't. They're lying. And particularly now with AI. So the best way that you can protect yourself is if you don't need to be on those spaces, deactivate them. You don't have to delete, but deactivate. Because one of the things that we're seeing a lot, for instance, now, and this I think helps explain this pretty well, is now that you know who is president, you may be following him on Facebook, whether you followed him or not, because the company can decide who gets to follow who. So that's at a level of deceptiveness, I will call it, that we have never seen before. And because he owns the company, there's no way to stop him. So I would say to you, those spaces are no longer safe. If you want to connect with your groups and there's a group that's protecting your cat, or there's your local quilting group or whatever, go on, but also make sure you log out every time. Log out every time off of every space, because it's not just that they're able to track you on the site, and any website that has the Facebook icon on it can also be used to track you.
Didn't they learn from when everyone got mad, they put the YouTube album on everybody's iPhone? Did they not learn from that we don't like that?
The iPod, wasn't it?
Oh, iPod,
You would open up the iPod and it automatically had YouTube's album downloaded.
Some people will never learn.
What about for you, Jen?
Okay, so for me, it was for paper towels. And I can't remember which one, if it was Brawny or something like that. But they were saying that it is more hygienic to use paper towels than rags. So you need to buy our paper towels.
If you want to care for your family.
If you want to protect your family, essentially, you need to use paper towels and not rags. And then I'm sitting there thinking, like, I'm not a doctor's office. Like, I'm not a hospital. I can be clean without being sterile. But they're making people believe that they need to be sterile, playing off that fear we have
in this like post-COVID era.
And I thought that was so sick.
Oh, man.
No pun intended.
Well, if it's Brawny, it's owned by the Koch brothers too. So that's another reason to avoid that.
Oh, wow. Come on. What isn't?
My husband and I recently, over the holidays, watched the Barbie movie, and that was an entire ad for many things, including Chevrolet. I'm just like, we're just watching Chevrolet. An entertaining Chevrolet ad, but also trying to get us to be a certain type of person.
Yeah, Barbie movie was an interesting time. Like, it was in every commercial and was a large commercial itself, but it was such a good movie.
But
I really liked it.
I was gobsmacked that nobody was talking about how much of an ad for Chevrolet it was. Like,
they did.
All of the conversation about it, that was not part of it.
Okay, but this is also 18 months ago.
Yeah.
18 months ago, they did talk about that.
I don't remember it then either. But I don't know. They were just all talking about Ryan Gosling's role and Ken.
He was Knuff. Yes. Oh, Dr. Mara, thank you so much. And I know that we could talk more, but where can people find your book, Hoodwinked, and more from you?
So Hoodwinked is available wherever books are sold. And the full title is Hoodwinked, How Marketers Use the Same Tactics as Cults, because there's another book called Hoodwinked that came out a year ago. So don't be confused.
Tip.
But can I show? It's
yes.
It's a very, very obvious kind of picture, so Very red, very black.
Red.
Yes.
And you can find me, because my socials are so in flux right now. My website is drmaraeinstein.com. That's DrMaraEinstein.com. I'm Dr. Mara Einstein on all socials if you do go look for me. And to answer the question that everybody wants to know, yes, I am related to that guy.
That's amazing. I know we didn't even make that into
I know.
the questions, but
Literally,
do you want to expound?
It's distant, and it's through marriage. But my daughter got the blood, so yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Still counts.
Yes.
Still counts.
It lives on. Thanks so much for being here, Dr. Mara.
Thank you so much. This is great.
Yeah, I kept thinking about our friend Amanda Montell, her book Cultish. She doesn't dive very deeply into consumerism, but she does end the book by saying, she makes a very strong stance that the cult of our time is consumerism. Whereas in the 70s, it was all the hippie cults and religious cults. And still we do have some of those today, but the really big cult that most of us are going to struggle with is consumerism. It's brand loyalty. All the things that Dr. Mara was talking about. It just, and the her book, I highly recommend it, Cultish, is all about the language of cults. And hearing Dr. Mara say all these words, thinking, yes, this is cult language that marketers are using, have been using, and are going to continue to use.
I'm really encouraged by this conversation and just my takeaways of the protective measures that we can put in place. I think so often when it comes to these really lofty ideas of things that are outside of our control and yet so oppressive to us on a day-to-day basis, it can feel really deflating and overwhelming. But I think what I'm hearing from Dr. Mara and even in our conversations, Jen, that there are things that we can be doing that lighten the load for us, that make us feel more equipped for these decisions that we're making. Like we don't have to just say, man, isn't it all just going to crap?
Yeah.
Like we can say, I get to choose how much I engage with this marketing by how often I'm looking at my phone. I get to put the parameters around that. I get to choose what I buy, where my dollars go, how I am making these decisions. And little by little, the more of us that can do that, the more power in those numbers it is. But also, even if nobody else made the same decisions that we did, we still have within our control the ability to find some degree of peace and calm and clarity and confidence, even in the midst of the mess, with how much we choose to engage in this and how equipped we can become. I think once you see it, you can't unsee it, to kind of realize anything I'm looking at, I can look at through a marketing lens of what are they trying to sell me? How are they trying to attach it to my identity? And that makes the no's even easier if it's not something for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you all so much for listening. We trust that this was a helpful conversation. And if you agree, we would love for you to leave us a kind review like this one. Here's an example, comes from Jackie Johnson Donner, happens to be 5 stars, and they say, buckle up, it's a long one. I had the opportunity to read an advanced copy. Oh, no, they reviewed our book, actually.
All of our reviews
going
forward are for the book.
Are for the book. So, yeah, feel free to review our podcast, definitely. But also, if you've read the book, leave us a review of that because we also talk about marketing tactics and how we can equip ourselves to make good spending decisions in the book. So, here's an example. I had the opportunity to read an advanced copy of this book, and it has already been incredibly eye-opening and personally beneficial. Unlike traditional personal finance books that focus solely on saving more and spending less, this one takes a refreshing approach. The authors focus on aligning your spending with personal core values. The concept of determining what your values are, what you want to spend your money on, and planning to spend your money on the things that matter seems so simple, but yet it's so impactful. When I appreciate most appreciate most is their non-judgmental tone. Jen and Jill walk you through the process step by step to reflect on where you spend money on and get you thinking about what you want to spend money on. Notice I didn't say that you should spend money on because there's no shaming or prescriptive advice here. It's filled with financial empowerment, and I've noticed a substantial improvement by following advice from the book. Under the financial mentorship of Jen and Jill, I have reduced our spending by 20% this month. Their personal stories are so relatable and illustrate their lessons with honesty, curiosity, and intention. If you are searching for a practical, thoughtful way to improve your finances without feeling overwhelmed and guilty, this is a must read. Be sure to also check out Frugal Friends podcast too. It's filled with fun and insight. Wow, Jackie Johnson Donner, thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jackie. We've enjoyed making the show for almost 7 years at this point, and we enjoyed writing this book so much to, help people discern marketing and their own impulses and make better spending decisions, not just the decision to not spend money because that's not sustainable. So if you have read the book, please leave us a review on Amazon or wherever you purchased it. If you have not, head to buywhatyoulovebook.com and get yourself a copy.
Thank you, and see you next time.
Frugal Friends is produced by Eric Sirianni.
Okay, Jen, the other day I was scrolling on my phone, and I kid you not, every single post, it had to have been 20, 25 posts in a row. Every single one was an ad, like a very blatant ad where it wasn't even just some influencer trying to sell me something, which is still an ad, but just I'm just like, this isn't even fun anymore. It was very easy to then just like put my phone down and be like, all right, I'm doing something else because this is just ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I've noticed they've been putting more ads in a row. It is, so social media is a blessing and a curse, right? Because it has such helpful, fantastic short form content, and it is lovely. We love memes. But it is also full of advertising. And so much of the solution centers around getting off your phone. But I think there is a lot to be said about conscious consumption of social media. Mm-hmm. So that's my 2 cents.
What is the first ad as you scroll? I'm opening up my phone. Mine is for a bank. I'm not even going to mention the bank because they don't deserve airtime.
Right. No, unless they pay me. And again, we can bring this to you for free because we get paid by certain brands.
Okay. A bank, insurance. You know what's laughable to me is when I get ads for something after I've made a purchase.
I'm seeing the Run Disney just announced the...
Oh no, an ad that's working on her. Oh
it's
no,
not
I
an
shouldn't
ad.
have had you do this.
It's native content. I knew they were making an announcement for the Wine and Dine theme today. I knew it. It was just the first thing that popped up. That's not even an ad, but the next one is an ad for Walt Disney World.
For Walt Disney World. Oh wow.
That is the
kind
second
of marketing
thing
you want.
Oh, then
to
the
know
third
about,
is a Frugal Friends podcast post. It is a post of our latest episode that just came out. So now I know what that episode is because we record a month in advance and I have totally forgot. So yeah, it's great. And then Legoland Florida is the next one because we used to have. Oh, and then a brand that I was doing research on to see if they would want to sponsor the show. See, that's really fun because some of my sponsors are so off the wall because I'm doing brand research and I'm definitely not. I mean, then I can see kind of what they do.
What they're doing.
I can scope it out early.
Yeah.
So
it is interesting, how curated it is to have, like, it's a high yield savings account, like a bank that offers a high yield savings account, insurance, a mental health ad. I mean, I
got a TV show.
Mad about these.
I got Universal Studios. They know I love Orlando. That is
an investing app.
Yeah.
Tell me you work in finance without telling me you work in finance.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
okay.
It's, A lot of different things. But I think my biggest thing is I want to stop scrolling so much. I want to be less of a consumer and more of a creator. I think that is my goal because I believe in social media. I believe in its power. And I also know that it is a cesspool as well. So there's confliction within me.
But you know what? We need to hold the tension. We can't only allow social media to be Temu hauls.
Right. Exactly.
We also need to be able to talk about what we're talking about.
I need to be the change I want to see in the world.
Exactly.
And so should you. Not you, Joe. The person listening to this.
I'll be the change. I'll change.
Sail to breathtaking destinations in Alaska or Europe with Disney Cruise Line. Discover where onboard magic meets onshore adventures, where beloved characters
Hiya, pal!
meet alluring landscapes, where Broadway quality shows meet historic cities, where imaginative dining meets amazing wildlife, and where exciting experiences await the whole family. Book an adventure-filled summer Disney cruise to Alaska or Europe.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to the A to Z savings event at AutoZone. What are you working on today?
Yeah, I need to change my oil. I want to get a full synthetic oil.
How about Pennzoil Platinum? It's the only oil made from natural gas.
Sounds great. How much for an oil filter?
Oh, that's free.
What?
The filter is free with the oil.
Free? Really?
Really, free. It's just part of our A to Z savings event at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
The Unshakables podcast is kicking off season 2 with an episode you won't want to miss. Join host Ben Walter, CEO of Chase for Business, as he welcomes a very special guest, Chairman and CEO of JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon. Hear about the challenges facing small businesses and some of the moments Jamie has overcome. Listen wherever you get your podcasts. Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank N.A. Member FDIC. Copyright 2025. JP Morgan Chase & Company.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.